Hi there. A little late to the game, but this is my contribution to the Our Homestead World collaboration that was started by Liz Zorab in Wales and the Deep South Homestead here in the U.S. And essentially it's a list of YouTube channels that have put out a video talking about where their homestead is in the world. And I'll put together a playlist for you and have it down in the description below. But for us, we're here in Ohio, north central Ohio, about an hour north of the state capital of Columbus. And we're just outside of a little village called Cardington in Morrow County. And Morrow County is quite rural, very agricultural, very proud of that. In fact, when we were looking to buy land here about 2 years ago, we would come upon land that we'd want to look at and that was for sale, but when asked, or when we would inquire, a lot of the owners would say, no, we know you're going to put a house on it. So not only is the area agricultural, but they want it to stay agricultural, which I think is a good thing to a certain extent, except I really wanted some of those lands. But what we ended up with is a 2-acre plot that is just about right for what we need. And again, we moved it here about almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in June. And with some of my other videos, you've seen some of the things that we have done and some things that we still need to do. But weather and climate-wise, we're here in the Midwest. We have mild to cold winters, and summers generally are pretty hot by the end of them and humid. And then spring and fall are rather nice, usually. Though I'm filming this on the first day of spring, and the forecast is for up to 4 inches of snow. Go figure. As they say, there's a very common statement that I hear about Ohio weather. If you don't like it, just wait a few minutes, it'll change. I've heard other people say that about the weather where they're at too. So, let's see. I'm checking the other questions for this one. That's right here. I've got it on my tablet. Make sure I hit every point. Our growing season is basically mid-April to mid-October. Though I typically in the past, and we did garden when we lived in the city. We lived in Columbus for 15 years or more, and had a garden there, and the garden we've had here the same. I typically don't plant before the first weekend in May, just to make sure. The average last frost is April 15th. That's the date for this area. But just to be sure, we don't put anything outside until May. And this last year here, I was harvesting things well into November, but we had a pretty mild winter until about the beginning to mid of December. And then in fact, even into January, we'd have days where the snow would melt and I would still see some of the herbs still growing. So it just depends, I guess, but typically the main bulk of our garden is May to mid to late October. And so far we grow only what we eat. We're not growing or doing anything on the homestead to make any money. But of course that kind of goes with our philosophy of why we moved out here. We wanted to be able to get back to the source of our food. For various reasons, we realized that the system that was providing our food wasn't providing that food to us in our best interest. It was pretty much providing it for profit. And so therefore we knew we had to take it upon ourselves to make sure we were getting actual nutritional food. And so to that end, we came out here to grow our own food, raise our own meat, and we're on that path. We're not there yet, but like I said, we've not even been here 2 years yet. We do a little more each year. We do have 5 chickens. We got those last summer. And while getting chickens was something we had planned on doing, and I had done actually quite a lot of research into, the actual getting of the chickens was pretty much on a whim. All of the planning that had gone into it, we had, I knew what we wanted. I knew what I wanted to do with them, how I wanted to raise them, what I, wanted to feed them, so on and so forth. And one Sunday morning, we woke up and it was, let's go get chickens. And we did. We originally got 6, though a chicken hawk, I call it a chicken hawk, I don't know what kind of hawk it was, but it was a hawk that really liked chickens. He decided that our 6th one was for him. And so now we have 5. They are laying eggs for us, and that is the benefit we're getting from them now, as well as some pretty good entertainment value, because I think they're absolutely nuts. Let's see. We do also have what we're calling our orchard. We have 4 apple trees, 2 pear trees, a plum tree, and 6 blueberry bushes, but those were planted just last year. And so we don't actually look to get anything from them for a couple years still. But hopefully when we will, we'll be able to, provide our own fruit for ourselves as well. Let's see. As far as how we grow our garden, this last year when we broke ground on the garden plot, because when we first moved, we moved in the beginning of summer, kind of a little too late to plant a whole lot, so we started with just some potted plants that we grew herbs and tomatoes and stuff in. Last year we did a full garden, over 1,000 square feet. I probably took too much on because I did not have time to keep up with the weeds. And I knew I wanted to at some point do a back to Eden style garden with wood chips, but I also knew that if I waited till I had the time to do that, we'd still be waiting. So we got ourselves a tiller that we borrowed from some friends, and we, with those friends, broke ground and tilled up the area of our garden. I'm thinking we probably will till one more year this year, and then start adding wood chips over top of that to block the weeds and the grass. Dealing with the grass was the worst last year. But we don't put any chemicals on it. We don't add any fertilizer to it. So far we have not enriched the soil, but I don't think we needed to, because even with fighting with the weeds and the grass, we had more food than what we knew how to do with last year. And so I think we're on the right track, and I think it'll only get better once we actually do the wood chips over top. And do I like homesteading is one of the last questions. And the answer is yes. I don't hesitate to say that. Grew up on a farm as a kid before my parents divorced, and I fully admit that I took for granted what we had there. I now, as an adult, looking back on the 10 years I spent on the farm, I realize I grew up in a good situation there as far as living on a farm. And that's what I want back. Maybe not the larger livestock, especially with only 2 acres, but, definitely raising my own animals, growing my own food, knowing that the food I'm eating is nutritionally sound. And again, that is the entire reason for moving out to where we've moved to. And as far as what my favorite activity on the homestead is, that has to be, so far, no question, dealing with the chickens. The 5 chickens we have are layers. They are treated like royalty. I've heard many people say don't get attached, blah, blah, blah. Well, these aren't our meat chickens. I'm not keeping them for 8 to 10 weeks and then putting them off to freezer camp, as I've heard Liz Zorab say. But the layers are here to stay. And so, yes, I get attached to them. They are absolutely entertaining. Fully enjoy taking care of them. It's just amazing. There are days in the spring, summer, and fall when it's nice out. I will pour myself a glass of wine. I will go get my lawn chair, and I will sit outside of their area and just watch them. It's fascinating to me. I have referred to it as chicken TV. But that's it. I think I've covered everything, and I'll put a list of those questions down below in the description as well, because if you feel you'd like to join this collaboration, please do so. The more, the better. As Doug and Stacy have put out in one of their videos, this is a movement, and it's one that is just growing every day, month and year. And so join in, post your own video. Once you do, let myself or Liz or Deep South Homestead know, and we'll get everybody added to the playlist. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.